Poor Things has just hit cinemas in the UK. I know, we're a couple of weeks behind here with this movie, but this is one I've had my eye on for months, and wow, it most certainly didn't disappoint. From the way that the story was told, the deeper meaning, the performances, and the gorgeous shots, I felt like I hadn't been on a journey in cinema like this since Everything Everywhere. So I'm fresh from the cinema, well, a few hours ago, and my mind has been simmering away with everything that I want to talk about with regards to this movie, so I'll get to it. Here is Poor Things ending explained and true meaning. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. I'm going to start by discussing the way that this film looked and how it contributed to the progression of and meaning to the story. The camera angles and black and white progressing to colour. This movie was one that was gorgeous on the eye, and in terms of the way that it looked, it also followed the same trajectory and mirrored what the plot to the story was. For example, it started out with us seeing Victoria Blessington on Tower Bridge as she was about to leap off of it, and it was in colour. From that moment on, I'd say around the first 45 minutes of it was solely in black and white. This was predominantly when we saw the life of Bella when her brain was in the early stages. She was protected from the outside world and she grew tired of living in this sheltered life which God was keeping her in. She was yearning to be free and to see what the world was made up of. So her being restricted was almost like her life having no colour in it whatsoever. She was living in black and white. In fact, she wasn't even living, she was merely existing. No matter how hard God tried to make a world inside of their home which meant that she didn't need to leave, it wasn't good enough. He'd experienced firsthand the harsh tongue of people in society that looked upon others that were different, and he feared for Bella and worried that she'd also get that same treatment. However, that's all changed when Duncan came along and they went to Lisbon. From that moment on, the entirety of the movie was in colour, and we saw the extremely powerful, popping colours which one could only describe as what it would most likely feel like seeing the world for the first time. Everything was vibrant and exciting, and I feel that was because we were in Bella's world, and her life now had colour within it. It was the complete opposite to everything that we saw during the opening of the movie. Her life was developing, she was learning, gaining experiences and discovering the meaning of life herself by being out there and experiencing it, and the colour was a strong representation of that. It was almost animated and showed what life can look like when you're seeing it for the first time in all of its glory. Colourful, at least compared to being confined to a house your entire existence. There was one particular camera angle that was chosen. I'm not too familiar with the specifics, but it was almost like a fisheye lens was applied to the camera, and it would look like this here. This would occasionally pop up from time to time in the movie, and I feel this was done for a specific reason. I feel this was done to remind us that Bella was a test subject, and that was the whole reason that she had her brain put inside of her mother's body. We were monitoring her and seeing how she functioned and developed, and this angle was a way of it almost being like a hidden camera and reminding us that we were having a look in, and then it would cut back to us being a part of it. It was very clever, and whilst I haven't seen it confirmed, that's the impression that I got from it. We were the observers, Bella was the subject, and the ending was the result. The use of black and white, colour, the vibrancy of it, and the shots was so well thought out, and it was beautiful to watch. As I said, it mirrored the progression of the story and the mindset that Bella had, and I thought it was a really nice touch that added a sense of elevated heightenedness to the senses. What did the movie mean? There were a few different things that I took away from this movie, but it felt like as a whole it was about experiencing life through your own eyes, breaking down barriers and boundaries and discovering who you are whilst overcoming all adversities and throwing caution to the wind. If we take a look at Bella, she was an individual who had a yearning for adventure and to experience life at its fullest. Knowing that there was a world that was out there, she felt as though she was missing out whilst behind the doors that Godwin protected. Albeit, if not with an extreme mental capacity at the start, but still there was that desire. What started out as her being exploited by Duncan when she was taken on this trip to Lisbon turned into her experiencing all of the things that we go through in life, just at a rapid pace. She went from being unable to communicate coherently to at the end being as mentally sufficient as you and I as she was set to take her exams. Duncan was originally seen as this person that lived his life that was full of adventure and threw caution to the wind. However, he himself wanted some more stability when compared to what Bella was seeking. He fell in love with her, grew jealous, and realized that she was a tiger that couldn't be caged. She'd experienced what it was like to be stuck, and she didn't want that. and that even meant being with Duncan and his abusive, possessive, and toxic ways. She was learning, and he couldn't keep up with her. Bella had the naivety and innocence that we all lose as we get older, but seeing a young mind inside the body of an adult living life as she pleased and enjoying everything that it brought for the first time highlighted that life is there for the living, no matter how you choose to do it, and there's no right or wrong way. The movie started with the death of Victoria, moved on to the birth of Bella, and then right at the end it concluded with the death of Godwin, with him meeting his demise, marking a full life cycle, whilst showing us everything that one experiences in between: exploitation, innocence, suffering, abuse, jealousy, fear, love, and lust. This movie was about life and all things that happen whilst we're here for this short time. Things that can be changed, and also things that we as a species just simply can't, even if we cause some of the problems that are out there. Godwin being called God was very telling of the fact that he made a monster in Bella and was quite literally God in creating life, something that shouldn't exist but did, and it was definitely inspired by Frankenstein. However, this time, the monster that was born was beautiful inside and out and offered no harm to the world. I actually think there's something telling about Godwin and the way that he acted. He was experimented on all throughout his life by his father, and you'd think that one would grow to resent the world or become the very thing that his father was and treat Bella like that, as she was his subject to start with. However, the complete opposite happened. He grew feelings of attachment and loved Bella like a daughter. He essentially raised her, and he became the father to her that she never had, and she became the daughter that he never had. If you think about it, General Alfie Blessington would have been her father if Victoria never jumped off of the bridge, and one could only imagine what it would have been like growing up in that house. So it also showed the change in circumstances for Bella, and that her life was probably better through what Godwin did. Alfie offered another form of entrapment, and Victoria herself was trapped. At its core, this movie is about the journey of life, experiencing it in the way that you want to, and just being free. We're on this earth for a good time, not a long time, and I think Bella was fully embodying that, even though it wasn't in a conscious manner. We saw her experiencing things for the first time, and although this movie is about figuratively finding yourself as a person, she quite literally did at the end when she realized the truth that was out there about her brain being inside her mother's body. So she found herself in both senses by the end of it, as she followed in her father Godwin's path in becoming the surgeon that reminded her of him, home, and comfort. Overall review. I thought Poor Things was just simply remarkable. I went into it not really knowing what to expect, but I left just being in awe of what I just watched. It was so clever in the way that it was directed, the way that the story was told, and the way that the message was delivered to us. I didn't expect it to be as good as what it was, but as I was watching it, it was just getting better and better. It was such a powerful watch. In terms of the cast, I thought they all absolutely smashed their roles. Massive credit to Emma Stone for absolutely carrying this film on her shoulders and perfectly depicting the mindset of somebody that was very young, all the way up to an adult that was proficient. We went on the journey with her, and she delivered the role so convincingly. I also think Willem Dafoe was amazing in this too. This is a role that you just couldn't see anybody else playing. I also loved the seagull moments on the ship. Does anybody else think that was a nod to The Lighthouse, as it very much felt like it? This is the first movie that I've watched in the cinema this year, and I'm so glad that I did, because it's one that when you're sitting there in the dark with only the screen to focus on, it hits so hard. The score behind a lot of this movie was so perfectly composed as well. The diminished chords that would often get played, the extremely loud, harsh cello, and the motif that would repeat when Bella would engage in intimate activities. It really established the mood of what was unfolding on screen at every given moment. This film is definitely worth a watch, and if you can, go and see it in the cinema, because I think it will add to the viewing experience a lot. So, there you have it. Poor Things ending explained in true meaning. If you'd like to see what I rated this movie out of 5, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. I rate all of the latest movies and keep it up to date with just what I watch in general, so head over there if you'd like to see what else I've been watching that's not on the channel.